Nature is not a place to visit, it's our home. Nature is all that we see. Animals, insects, disappearing into their surroundings, using deceptions, disguises, lures. Nature is all that we hear. The call of an eagle, the hiss of ocean spray, the rumble of thunder, the doings of a cricket. The wonderful beauty of nature, the crucial, fragile affinity between animal life and their environment. All of this is World of the Wild. The Amazon. Spread over 9 countries and 5.5 million square kilometers. This is the world's largest rainforest and one of the most biodiverse places on the planet. Teeming with life, much of which is still unknown to science, this episode examines some of the Amazon's most iconic inhabitants. The colossal anaconda, the easygoing sloth, the cold-blooded caiman, the hair-raising tarantula, and the mysterious Amazon River dolphin. In a place filled with legends, none have gripped the human imagination quite like the anaconda. With a stranglehold over the twisting morass of swamps, marshes and streams that comprise the Amazonian wetlands, the anaconda family consists of 5 species, among them the largest snake in the world. While the gargantuan proportions of the green anaconda are subject to wild speculation, what is certain is that all anacondas are perfectly adapted to the waterways of their rainforest home. Relatively slow and cumbersome on the land, the anaconda utilizes the murky river system to travel effortlessly and to hunt with ruthless efficiency. Able to remain submerged for over 10 minutes, they are expert hunters of the fish, turtles and caiman that inhabit the abundant waters of the Amazon. But that's not all. The entire jungle ecosystem is dependent on its waterways, and here, the waterways give the anaconda license to rule. High-set eyes and nostrils allow it to remain almost entirely hidden in the water while laying in wait for the land-based prey. Anacondas will eat anything they can overpower, and for a snake this big, few in the Amazon are safe. Like all reptiles, anacondas are ectothermic, obtaining their body heat from their environment. The Amazon rainforest's year-round average temperature of 27 degrees Celsius makes this paradise for big snakes. Beneath the thick jungle canopy of the Amazon, darkness comes quickly. But the anaconda has adapted to hunt without light. Specialized sense organs around the lips detect body heat. The flickering forked tongue takes chemical cues from the air, and sensitive skin detects sounds and vibrations on land and in water. Latching onto its prey with hundreds of razor-sharp teeth, it's not the anaconda's bite that kills. A non-venomous snake, the anaconda employs its long, muscular body to coil around its jungle prey and patiently suffocate them. Meals are swallowed whole. Disengaging the lower jaw, the snake can stretch its mouth around food far bigger than its head. With a menu as wide as its gape, the anaconda preys on all that the Amazon has to offer. A top-order predator of the Amazon, the greatest threat to the deadly anaconda is from man. Prized for their legendary status, as well as their magnificent skin, the surprisingly shy and elusive nature of these snakes has so far kept them safe, allowing the legend to continue to grow. From the waters to the trees, the Amazon rainforest is a densely interwoven ecosystem, and one humble creature is the true embodiment of this. Sloths are the most prevalent tree-dwelling mammals in South America. They are also the least conspicuous. Concealed within the rainforest canopy, sloths display a distinctive preference for the widely distributed Cecropia tree, also known as the sloth tree. Sloths coexist as one with the jungle, to the point where their coat is a jungle in microcosm. Considered walking ecosystems, sloths' bodies are covered in thick coats that harbour their own animal and plant life. With the Amazon's almost daily rainfall and high humidity, the sloth provides a hairy habitat for moisture-seeking moths, beetles, cockroaches, and a specialized form of algae. Found nowhere else in the world, this host-specific microorganism has evolved with the sloth and is passed on to infants as they cling to their mother's fur. While the algae aids in camouflage, this symbiotic relationship also extends to the sloth's diet. As folivores, the sloth's main food source is leaves, which are not only tough to digest, but provide little energy. By growing and consuming their own algae gardens, sloths are able to boost their nutritionally poor diet. But even with a boost to their diets, sloths carry around 20% less muscle tissue than most mammals. Lacking the ability to make a quick getaway, sloths are at the mercy of Amazon's many predators. Predators like the jaguar. An expert climber, sloths can do little to defend themselves from this feline foe, but little is exactly what they do. Inactive for great parts of the day, sloths only move when necessary, hence the name, sloth. Often remaining in the same tree for years, when sloths do move, they are quiet, gentle, and slow, minimizing disturbance to the foliage and never calling attention to themselves. In this way, a lack of speed is advantageous. the sloth's economy of movement leaving predators completely oblivious to their presence. In their own effortless style, sloths are masters of the Amazon, but their success in the rainforest has come at a cost, with sloths unable to survive outside their specific habitat. As the embodiment of the interconnectivity of the jungle, to preserve the Amazon is to preserve the sloth. The vast expanse of the jungle, its rainforest and river systems, its mangroves and marshes, has fostered a diversity of life and a diversity of caiman. Members of the ancient order of crocodilians, caiman are another apex predator of the Amazon's waterways. With 6 species, from the diminutive dwarf caiman to the mighty 5-meter-long black caiman, all are found in the Amazon. Once covering most of South America, the Amazon rainforest is over 55 million years old. Perfectly in tune with this ancient environment, the caiman's lineage is even more prehistoric, and they are considered among the most perfectly adapted creatures on the planet. Propelling themselves through the water with their thick, powerful tails and webbed feet, caiman are excellent swimmers with dominion over the Amazon's rivers and lakes. Hunting primarily by sight, their large eyes have vertical pupils, allowing for excellent night vision. An additional transparent eyelid grants protection and clearer vision while stalking beneath the surface of the Amazon's waterways. Snatching prey in their powerful toothy jaws, they are opportunistic predators, taking advantage of whatever food source is most abundant. With a wide diet including fish, amphibians, insects and snails, as well as other reptiles and large mammals, for caiman, the Amazon is a smorgasbord. But the Amazon also knows privation. During the annual dry season, the waters recede and ecosystems once connected by floodplains and streams become cut off, reducing the caiman's hunting grounds. But caiman are equipped to wait the dry season out, able to go for months without food. Conserving energy, they reduce their hunting activity. Being cold-blooded, no energy is wasted on producing heat, instead drawing it from the environment. When times get really tough, caimans can resort to cannibalism. Climate change poses a more existential threat. The sex of crocodilians is determined by temperature while incubating in their eggs. When held at around 30 degrees Celsius, hatchlings tend to be female. Just 4 degrees higher, and the hatchlings are predominantly male. With global warming, scientists are concerned about the possibility of an overpopulation of male caiman. Will this ancient species be able to adapt to a rapidly changing world? Caiman have bounced back before. Once hunted to near extinction for their valuable leather hide, this led to an imbalance in the Amazon ecosystem. Strict anti-hunting laws and protected habitats have made the caiman a conservation success story in the Amazon, and their return to the top of the food chain has played an important role in maintaining the balance of the Amazon's fragile ecosystem. In the dark of the Amazon undergrowth, a whole other world exists. With sunlight blocked out by the thick rainforest canopy above, this shady, humid environment is littered with decomposing plant and animal matter, returning nutrients to the jungle ecosystem. But the rainforest floor is also home to a surprising abundance of life. A staggering 90% of all the creatures that live in the Amazon are arthropods, a group of invertebrates with external skeletons. Arthropods include insects, centipedes, scorpions, and spiders. With an estimated 3,600 species of spider in the Amazon, one species is arachnophobia personified, the tarantula. Inhabiting the planet since the age of the dinosaurs, there are over 800 species of tarantula spread over most of the world. Tarantulas are the biggest of the spiders, and the biggest of the big are found in the Amazon. Here, tarantulas can grow to the size of dinner plates. Occupying underground burrows or tree hollows, unlike many spiders, tarantulas do not use their web to catch prey, preferring instead to ambush them. Laying in wait in their burrow entrances, tarantulas are coated in sensitive hair that helps them detect prey, called seta. These fine sensory organs are used to pick up on vibration, identify chemical signatures akin to smell, and possibly even detect sound. This coating of seta allows tarantulas to determine the location and size of approaching quarry before they see it. The typical tarantula diet consists mainly of insects, frogs, small lizards, and even mice. The enhanced proportions of Amazonian tarantulas means that they are capable of tackling larger preys. When the victim is within range, the tarantula launches its attack, using its legs to grab hold of its quarry and paralyzing it with venom. Once the victim is dead, tarantulas administer an injection of digestive enzymes, liquefying their meals and sucking them up through straw-like mouths. Despite the tarantula's fearsome appearance, they pose little threat to man. Man, on the other hand, poses a threat to tarantulas through habitat destruction and the pet trade. Fortunately, in the case of the Amazon, all indications are that the tarantula population is continuing to thrive. Draining 40% of South America, each year the waters of the Amazon River burst their banks, transforming lowland jungles into enormous floodplains. Amazon River dolphins, also known as Boto dolphins, are the largest freshwater dolphin in the world and a mystery of the animal kingdom. While much remains unknown about these unique creatures, they are the unlikely specialists of the Amazon River. Botos live their entire lives in the turbid waters of the Amazon and its tributaries, leading to a set of very specific adaptations. The Boto's long, broad flippers and low dorsal fin grant it extreme maneuverability even in shallow water. Unfused neck vertebrae allow river dolphins to turn their heads 180 degrees to either side, a vital adaptation in navigating a choked maze of submerged obstacles. Sweeping their heads from side to side, the Botos employ an advanced echolocation system to navigate and to locate prey with pinpoint accuracy. With small eyes, there is uncertainty as to how well Botos can see, but hunting fish, turtles and crustaceans in the dark, muddy waters of the Amazon, it is certain that they do not rely on eyesight. An enlarged hump on their heads helps focus their sonar, and an elongated snout enables the dolphin to extract food from hiding places in hollow logs or submerged thickets of vegetation. However, these specialized adaptations have come at a cost: speed. River dolphins are far slower than their distant relatives in the oceans, but being slow does not disadvantage the Boto because, within the Amazon, it has no natural predators. No predators, that is, except for man. Traditionally, Amazonian tribes protected the Boto, believing them to be semi-divine beings capable of shape-shifting into human form. Today, industry and fishing threaten the Boto's habitat and the food source they depend on to survive. Climate change is another threat, placing an additional strain on fish stocks and bringing unpredictability to the Amazon's annual floods. Unable to survive in salt water, the Amazon River dolphin has nowhere else to go. With the population of this mysterious species difficult to determine, the only sure way of protecting them is the preservation of the Amazon's precious river ecosystems. Rainforests are believed to contain more than half of all the plant and animal species on Earth, as well as countless others waiting to be discovered. In the case of the Amazon, we have seen the anaconda, the sloth, the caiman, the tarantula, and the Boto dolphin. Yet the influence of the Amazon stretches far beyond its borders. Considered the lungs of the planet, it produces around 20% of the world's oxygen and stops greenhouse gases from entering the atmosphere. But at current rates of deforestation, in as little as 50 years, the vast wilderness of the Amazon may no longer exist. Conservation efforts have been successful in reducing deforestation, but the Amazon is still shrinking. The planet needs its lungs, now more than ever, and greater protection is required to sustain the Amazon in order for it to continue sustaining us. Covering almost half of continental Africa, the open woodlands and rolling grass plains of the savanna pass through more than 25 countries. Stretching for nearly 13 million square kilometers, the scale of this unique tropical grassland is staggering, and so too is the diversity of life that it fosters. In this episode, we will encounter some of the savanna's most famous residents: lions, elephants, wildebeests, cheetahs, and giraffes. The huge expanse of the African savanna is presided over by the king of beasts, the lion. The largest carnivores in Africa, lions are the continent's top predators. Although capable of hunting at any time, lions have few sweat glands, so tend to be less active during the day, managing the heat of their grassland kingdom by relaxing in whatever shade is available. Like all cats, lions are creatures of leisure, sleeping around 20 hours every day. But they come alive at night. While the African veldt offers limited cover for stalking prey in daylight hours, the cover of darkness gives lions the advantage. Highly developed eyes allow lions to amplify even the faintest light, granting them excellent night vision. Thought to be up to 8 times more effective than humans. And with eyes set in the front of their heads, these big cats also have enhanced depth perception, allowing them to more effectively gauge distance as they close in on their prey. Whether hunting by night or day, the lion's deadly technique is unaltered. Launching short, violent attacks from close range, they utilize their bulk to overpower prey. Sinking in their long, retractable claws, they employ their muscular forelimbs and shoulders to pull down their quarry before finishing the job with powerful jaws, closing off the airways to asphyxiate their unfortunate victim. Seasonal fires are a regular occurrence on the savanna, particularly during the dry season. With enough warning, lions and other large animals are able to find safe refuge, and while the grass stems are consumed in the flames, the underground roots are unharmed and quickly spawn new growth. As proficient as lions are at hunting, it remains a costly and unreliable practice in this exposed environment. Despite fabled associations with nobility, in reality, lions are opportunistic, as much scavengers as they are hunters. Scanning the open African skies for the circling vultures that indicate fresh kill, lions have no compunctions when it comes to stealing carcasses from other predators. The only cats to live in groups, the lion pride is a family unit with distinctive roles for each member. Encumbered by their heavy manes, males are inefficient hunters. Thus, the majority of hunting duties falls to the lionesses. While the cubs are free to play and learn from their elders, the male's role is to defend their pride's territory, which can extend for hundreds of kilometers. Around 10,000 years ago, lions were among the most widespread land mammals on the planet, second only to humans. Today, the African grassland is one of their remaining strongholds, and this habitat is under threat of human expansion. Local enforcement of anti-hunting laws has proven successful in preserving lion numbers, but the savanna itself must be protected in order to fully serve these kings of the wild. In the wide open world of the African veldt, the presence of the largest terrestrial creature on the planet is unmistakable, the elephant. But when you're this big, there's hardly a reason to hide. Africa is home to two of the world's 3 living species of elephant. The smaller forest elephant and the truly enormous savanna elephant. Continuing to grow throughout their long lives, male savanna elephants can reach heights of 4 meters and weights of over 6 tons. Relatively slow-moving and conspicuous amongst the low-lying grassland of the veldt, their sheer size affords protection from the savanna's myriad predators. But size comes at a cost. The huge volume of food required to sustain their frames means that elephants must spend around 20 hours every day grazing, consuming hundreds of kilos of vegetation in the process. Vast quantities of water are also required, and on the baking plains of the savanna, water can be a notoriously unreliable resource. The elephants have a solution: their trunk. Considered the most versatile appendage in the animal kingdom, elephants' trunks are made up of over 40,000 muscles. By comparison, the entire human body has just 639. Used for tasks as diverse as fighting, feeding, and courting, the trunk is also a supreme organ of smell, and elephants are able to use their trunks to detect water over 19 kilometers away. Steadily traversing the immense grassland plains, these giant pachyderms are able to cope with the extreme heat of their environment through another specialized adaptation: their ears. Resembling the shape of continental Africa, the savanna elephant's enlarged ears not only enable a heightened sense of hearing, but also an efficient cooling system. Presenting a large, thin area of skin, As the elephant's blood passes through the many veins of their ears, heat is readily transferred back to the environment, reducing the elephant's body temperature by as much as 9 degrees Celsius. Perhaps the elephant's greatest adaptation to their environment is their brain. Highly intelligent, elephants have the largest brain of any land animal. As long-lived animals, the elephant's famous long memory is a vital asset. Guiding herds through times of drought by recalling the location of distant water and food sources unvisited in decades. The complex social bonds of elephant herds are also served by complex brain functions, allowing behaviors associated with grief, humor, and possibly even language. One adaptation that has not served the elephant well is their tusks. Used to clear debris, dig for food, and in fighting, these elongated teeth are made of ivory and are highly valued by humans. Hunting for ivory decimated African elephant populations until restrictions on the international ivory trade stopped the decline. Today, there are positive signs, with elephant numbers stabilizing. But poachers continue to threaten elephants, and constant vigilance is required to protect them. Throughout this sprawling grassland environment, across the open plains, over the undulating hills, and amongst the outspread shrubland, the most abundant big game species is the wildebeest. Receiving their name from Dutch settlers, noting their resemblance to wild cattle, wildebeest are members of the antelope family. And while they are the preferred prey of many grassland species, particularly lions, wildebeests are no easy target. Coated in tough hide, the wildebeest is capable of speeds of 80 kilometers an hour and has the stamina to outpace big cats. With adults weighing up to 250 kilograms and armed with vicious horns, these wild cattle are more than equipped to contend with predators that stalk them through the grassland habitat. But their real strength is in numbers. Herd animals, wildebeests have developed behavioral adaptations to maximize their defense. Alternating roles of guard duty and sleeping, wildebeest herds are vigilante 24 hours a day. When threatened, the herd selflessly protects its youngest and most vulnerable members by closing ranks around them. Wildebeests have also developed collaborative relationships with other grassland creatures. Joining forces with zebras, they form mixed grazing groups in open savanna, simultaneously increasing their collective awareness whilst decreasing each individual's chance of being attacked. Highly attuned to the sounds of the savanna, wildebeests are keenly aware of the alarm calls from tree-dwelling birds and baboons, an early warning system telling them it's time to move. And moving is what wildebeests do best. Every year, herds in their hundreds of thousands come together for a defining event of the African grassland and one of the world's most spectacular natural phenomenons, the Great Migration. Chasing the rains of the savanna's wet season, they head northward in search of greener pastures in a ground-trembling mass movement sweeping inexorably across the plains. Stalked all the while by their usual grassland predators, they must also contend with several major river crossings through crocodile-infested waters. And while the migration may look disorderly, researchers have discovered there is a swarm intelligence to the transit, With a shared goal that will benefit the entire herd, the animals are able to repeat tests of trial and error in order to collectively overcome the obstacles that lie in their path. Successful migrations require connected wilderness corridors across the African continent, and human developments such as roads and fences create new barriers every year. Yet there is evidence that the collective intelligence of wildebeests is adapting to this human influence, with migration pathways ranging wider to avoid human encroachment. Beyond the big cats that hunt them, there is another threat to wildebeests, namely agriculture. Competing with livestock over grazing rights and blame for spreading disease amongst domesticated cattle, wildebeest numbers have decreased rapidly in recent years, as they are fenced out of traditional feeding areas and migration pathways. However, wildebeest grazing habits are known to be increasing soil fertility while decreasing fire risk on the savanna. And both farmers and conservationists recognize that wildebeests are needed to sustain the valuable grassland ecosystem. In an environment characterized by its wide open spaces, speed is a highly prized asset. But even in the fastest, in the unforgiving savanna, life is never easy. As the fastest land-based animal, the cheetah has evolved purely for speed, regularly clocking sprints of over 90 kilometers an hour. But acceleration is one thing, and control is another. So while cheetahs may be famous for their speed, it is actually their agility that is the secret to their success on the veldt. Rare among the cat family, semi-retractable claws grant traction through the grassland as the cheetah swivels its narrow waist for high-speed maneuvers, the elongated tail acting as a rudder for stabilization. One of the smallest of the big cats, the thin-framed cheetah can only target medium-sized prey and is poorly equipped to defend itself. Losing around 50% of their kills to the many larger predators of the veldt, cheetahs have had to make behavioral modifications to survive. Hunting in the morning or late afternoon to avoid competition, cheetahs eat their kill immediately to maximize feeding time before they can be chased off. Despite these adaptations to life on the savanna, cheetahs are only successful in around half of their hunts. Until recently, it was incorrectly believed that the reason for cheetahs pulling out of the chase was because they overheated in the African sun. However, cheetah body temperatures do rise when feeding. This is when cheetahs are at their most vulnerable, at risk of being set upon by other carnivores competing over the grassland's limited food resources. For an animal that relies entirely on speed and agility, any injury is potentially life-threatening for a cheetah, and they must be especially vigilant when feeding, ever ready to employ their speed defensively for a quick getaway. Having evolved so specifically, of the big cats, cheetahs are considered the least capable of adapting to change. Even in Africa's nature reserves, where other cats flourish, cheetahs face greater pressure from their larger competitors and are pushed outside the boundaries, coming into conflict with farmers. Facing extinction in much of Africa throughout the 20th century, small cheetah populations held on and have even made a comeback in certain countries. While cheetahs may not find it easy to adapt to their changing world, for now they continue to scrape by. The abundant and diverse life that inhabits the African grassland has developed a range of adaptations to thrive in this challenging environment. So not only is the veldt home to the fastest and largest animals on the planet, it is also home to the tallest, the giraffe. With male giraffes reaching heights of 5.5 meters, these lofty animals tower above the grassland. But despite their size, they can be surprisingly hard to see. Their distinctive coat patterns, unique to each individual giraffe, serve to break up their huge outlines, allowing them to blend in with the savanna woodlands. This camouflage is particularly important to young giraffes who are more vulnerable to predators before they reach full size. Stretching to just short of 2 meters and weighing 270 kilograms, the giraffe's neck is its most distinctive adaptation. It is also somewhat of a mystery. The conventional scientific explanation for the giraffe's extended neck center around natural selection, with their reach allowing them to feed on foliage that competitors cannot access, giraffes have an advantage over other herbivores. However, recently some scientists have questioned whether the giraffe's neck is less important for feeding and more important in sexual selection. Male giraffes must compete in order to secure mating rights to females, using their necks as weapons. Known as necking, these fights consist of males wrestling their necks against each other and swinging their horned heads to deliver sledgehammer blows. If males with longer and stronger necks are winning these contests, could it be selective breeding that is driving the growth of the giraffe's neck? The giraffe's height affords them a very particular perspective over the immense plains of the savanna, but it is their heart that allows them to stand so tall. Weighing 11 kilograms, the massive giraffe heart races at 150 beats per minute, twice the rate of humans, in order to pump blood to the extremities of these extreme bodies. Displaying a distinct preference for the hardy and wide-ranging acacia tree, giraffes are well adapted to feeding in both the wet and dry seasons of the savanna. Grasping foliage with their elongated, prehensile tongues, they consume around 34 kilograms of vegetation daily. Giraffes also get the majority of their liquid from the leaves they eat. This means that they only need to drink every 3 days or so, minimizing the risk of attack from crocodiles and other predators around the savanna's waterholes. As human expansion has altered the savanna landscape, giraffe numbers have suffered, but they appear to be adapting to the changes. Able to graze alongside cattle, giraffes do not directly compete with livestock and are able to coexist with agriculture in a way that many other wild animals cannot. The unique grassland plains and sparse woodland environment of the savanna has seen some remarkable animal adaptations. Across the continent of Africa, we have seen the lion, the elephant, the wildebeest, the cheetah, and the giraffe. Yet the future of this grassland environment hangs in the balance. Facing the all too common pressures of human expansion, changes in the world's climate also threaten to upset the precious balance of the savanna ecosystem. Africa's commitment to preserving the savanna and its inhabitants through nature reserves is a crucial first step, but it is a global effort that is required to ensure the future of this extraordinary and fragile environment. The Great Barrier Reef, the largest coral reef system in the world, it stretches for over 2,300 kilometres along the east coast of Australia. Comprised of billions of tiny life forms known as coral polyps, the reef is the largest structure on Earth made from living organisms, so large that it is visible from outer space. With the continent of Australia uplifting into its solitary position tens of millions of years ago, the land mass was raised above normal sea levels, creating a base platform for the reef at the perfect depth for corals to flourish. In this episode, we delve into the waters of the Coral Sea to explore its colourful environment and examine the diverse animal life that it's home to. We will search for the concealed octopus, follow green sea turtles on their journeys, comb the seagrass with dugongs, learn the secrets of jellyfish, and hunt with white-tip reef sharks. Teeming with life, the Great Barrier Reef supports a densely interwoven ecosystem. Taking advantage of the coral infrastructure, octopuses are among the most intelligent and versatile of the reef's inhabitants. Perfectly adapted to life among the nooks and crannies of this maze-like construction of the reef system, octopuses lack any sort of skeleton, making them remarkable contortionists. Squeezing into the most improbable spaces, the octopus is able to both protect itself from predators and launch ambush attacks on passing prey. All octopuses are venomous, but one takes this adaptation to the extreme, the blue-ringed octopus. Despite their small stature, blue rings are one of the world's most venomous marine animals. Powerful enough to kill creatures far larger than itself, at any one time a single blue-ringed octopus carries enough venom to kill 26 humans within minutes. Navigating the reef system by expelling water in a form of jet propulsion, the blue ring spends the majority of its time hiding in the coral crevices. Masters of disguise, not only can blue rings change their color in a split second, but they are also able to alter the texture of their skin in order to blend seamlessly with their surroundings. And the blue ring employs it to deadly effect when pursuing its preferred prey, the small crabs and shrimp. Hunting by vision, when stalking prey in the open, the blue ring blends so effectively with its environment that it can steadily approach its quarry and attack before the victim knows what hit it. Seizing prey with its tentacles, the blue-ringed octopus uses its horny beak-like mouth to puncture through the crustacean's exoskeleton and deliver a different kind of venom. Reserving their most potent venom for self-defense, blue rings administer a less potent toxin in hunting. The effect is the same, paralyzing the victim in seconds and allowing the octopus to safely consume its quarry. Facing few threats in the wild, the greatest danger to the blue-ringed octopus is the degradation of its ocean habitat. In the case of the Great Barrier Reef, the coral that underpins the entire ecosystem faces an uncertain future. With 80% of the land adjacent to the reef used for farming, the runoff from fertilizer and pesticides is a major health risk for the reef and the life it supports. As the connectivity between the environments of the land and the sea are becoming more widely understood, integrated management plans are needed to ensure the future of the blue ring, the reef, and all the life it supports. Of the 7 species of marine turtle, 6 can be found in the Great Barrier Reef. The most abundant of these is the green sea turtle, which has its nesting grounds on the islands of the reef system. Feeding on the abundant sea grasses and algae of the warm waters of the Coral Sea, adult turtles are exclusively herbivores. Juveniles, however, have a broader, more carnivorous diet, targeting animal life including crustaceans and jellyfish. Whether in the open water or tucked into the crevices of the reef system, green sea turtles know few natural predators, thanks to the evolution of their shell. Streamlined for effective swimming, this armored carapace encloses the vital organs and is all but impenetrable to attack. Only large sharks stand a chance against the robust shield, and even then, green sea turtles can be surprisingly difficult to catch. Despite their slow-moving reputation, turtles are powerful swimmers, and when threatened, employ their paddle-like flippers to reach underwater speeds of over 55 kilometers an hour. For these migrating turtles, the Great Barrier Reef is not just a breeding ground, but a cleaning station. Throughout the reef system, turtles have developed a symbiotic relationship with various species of cleaning fish. This mutually beneficial arrangement sees the fish given an easy feast and the turtles relieved of the tiny parasites that come to congregate on their shells. Taking decades to reach sexual maturity, females do not breed until they are around 45 years old. And while males annually visit the sheltered breeding sites of the Great Barrier Reef, females only breed every 2 to 4 years. When she is in a breeding year, the female controls the process, mating with multiple males to fertilize her clutch of over 100 eggs. Then, along with her fellow gestating females, she makes the arduous journey to the surface. With almost 1,000 islands dotted throughout the Great Barrier Reef, green sea turtles have a range of nesting areas. Graceful creatures in the sea, the laying females face an exhausting journey on land as they drag their near 200-kilogram bulks up the beaches in order to bury their nests beneath the sand. This is goodbye for the mother and her young. She will not stay with her children. Instead, she is heading back to the waters of the Coral Sea. Around 10 weeks later, the eggs hatch. Surfacing en masse, they make their perilous journey back to the sea. This process of crossing the beach is thought to imprint the hatchlings with the cues they need to find their way back when it is their time to breed. But many will not make it. With their mothers long gone, the hatchlings must fend for themselves against predators such as crabs that pick the vulnerable turtles off as easy meals. For the green sea turtle, this, their first journey from nest to sea, is the most dangerous of their lives. And even for those that manage to swim away, the future is far from certain for this endangered species. The Great Barrier Reef ecosystem is not all about coral, with shallower sections of this marine environment encompassing large sandy tracts dominated by seagrasses and other plant species. Specialized for life in this niche environment of underwater meadows is the sea cow, otherwise known as the dugong. Capable of diving to almost 40 meters, these oxygen-breathing mammals prefer the shallower waters between the reef and coastline. Here, in depths averaging 10 meters, the seagrass beds they depend on are most abundant. Highly specialized marine herbivores, dugongs have adapted perfectly to their grazing lifestyle. Their elongated snouts face downwards, ending in enlarged, muscular upper lips. Pressing these lips to the seafloor, they sift through and pull out entire plants, including the roots, shaking them free of sand before ingesting large mouthfuls. While they may look like giant vacuum cleaners running indiscriminately along the seafloor, in the Great Barrier Reef, the dugongs avoid bulk eating by targeting high nitrogen, low fiber varieties of seagrass. Coastal development, boat traffic and pollution all degrade seagrass communities, and it is these anthropogenic factors that are endangering the future of the dugong. Because they are evolved for such a specific marine environment, to protect the seagrass habitat is to protect the dugong. Social animals, dugongs are rarely seen in large numbers because of the lack of seagrass beds to support them. However, in times of plenty, herds in their hundreds have been witnessed coming together. While numbers of this shy and elusive creature are difficult to gauge, the Great Barrier Reef is considered to support a stable and healthy dugong population. Although fishing-related fatalities continue to occur, dugongs are protected in many countries by strict anti-hunting laws. Slow-moving creatures, the average speed of a dugong is just 10 kilometers per hour, even less when feeding. This gentle pace allows for fish such as remoras to travel with the dugongs, cleaning them of the parasites that settle on their skin. Long-lived mammals with a lifespan of around 70 years and a slow reproduction rate, preserving this endangered species will require a sustained commitment for many years to come. The corals of the Great Barrier Reef are living things, made up of colonies of thousands of organisms growing over the calcified remains of their ancestors. Linked by their simple anatomical design and carnivorous feeding habits, corals are part of a group of animals called cnidarians. The basis of the Great Barrier Reef are tiny stony coral organisms called polyps, members of the Cnidarian family. When these polyps attached to the continental shelf around Australia's northeast coast, they divided into thousands of clones to form colonies. As polyps are soft-bodied, they secrete a protective limestone skeleton around themselves, and in this way, the reef was formed over millions of years by billions of polyps. Gradually growing by around a centimetre each year, the coral reached up toward the light like trees in a rainforest, and once at the surface, spread outward to create the stunning formations we know today. Vastly different in appearance, the free-floating Cnidarian cousin of the coral is the jellyfish. While the sedentary corals of the Great Barrier Reef required clear, sunlit waters at a very particular depth range, the mobile jellyfish is far less fussy and can be found in almost every ocean on the planet. A non-polyp form of Cnidaria, the name jellyfish is somewhat of a misnomer, as invertebrates they lack a spine and therefore are not true fish. Fish they may not be, but jellies are actually the most energy-efficient swimmers in the ocean. While they lack speed and have only limited control over their movement, the jellyfish's pulsating motion creates a tiny vortex effect in the water, demonstrated to provide effective transport with a minimum energy output. As carnivores, jellies feed on the plankton, crustaceans, even other jellies that are abundant throughout the reef. Each tentacle houses thousands of tiny cells containing stinging thread-like harpoons called nematocysts. When a tentacle happens to brush against prey, the nematocysts uncoil, piercing the victim's flesh and injecting their paralyzing venom. Found in the offshore waters of the reef during the tropical wet season, box jellyfish are considered among the most venomous animals in the world. While jellies feed on small fish, certain fish species of the reef have evolved a symbiotic relationship with their would-be predator. With an immunity to the stinging nematocysts, these fishes shelter among the otherwise deadly tentacles, gaining protection from other ocean predators. Having wandered the seas for over 500 million years, jellyfish are considered the oldest multi-organ animal on the planet. In evolutionary terms, simplicity is often the best. And there is evidence that jellyfish numbers are increasing globally despite changes in the oceans that are unfavorable for other species. Recent research is suggesting that jellyfish are resistant to ocean acidification caused by global warming. And while creatures such as sharks, tuna, and sea turtles may prey on jellyfish, overfishing is reducing many of their predators. So, while greenhouse gases and intensive fishing are having a harmful effect on the reef and most of the life it harbours, it seems that the humble and ancient jellyfish is able to float on as it has for millennia. With an abundance of life comes an abundance of predators, and the Great Barrier Reef is no different. Of the variety of sharks that inhabit the teeming waters of the reef's rich ecosystem, the white-tip reef shark is the true specialist of this coral environment.
One of the most common sharks found on the reef, the white tip is relatively small, around 1.5 meters in length, and has a slender build which allows it to pursue prey through the cracks and crevices of the coral. In fact, the white tip's lithe, elongated body is so specifically designed for hunting in tight spaces that it must swim with a strong undulating motion, making it quite clumsy in open water hunting. Although vulnerable to predation from other, larger shark species, white tip reef sharks remain an apex predator on the Great Barrier Reef, controlling populations of fish, crustaceans, and octopuses. While they may hunt opportunistically during the day, white tips are nocturnal creatures, and with the onset of dusk, the true nature of the white tip is revealed. Methodically patrolling the coral reef in loosely organized groups, white-tip reef sharks hunt by smell and by employing their sixth sense, detecting the faint electrical fields generated by their prey. The white-tip's remarkable sense of electroreception allows them to locate creatures hiding or sleeping within the coral, forcing their way into the holes of the reef face, often with enough vigor to break the coral and damage their own skin. White tips feed on the plentiful aquatic life sheltering within the reef, like goatfish and parrotfish. Hunting in packs, the relentless white tips work together to drive out prey, but do not share the spoils. Unlike grey reef sharks or their black-tip counterparts, the competitive feeding of white tips is more well-mannered and does not stir them into feeding frenzies. After dawn, the new day will find the sociable white tips recovering from their busy nights. Resting in groups, they have the rare ability among sharks to remain motionless, pumping water over their gills to allow respiration. So well adapted to their reef hunting lifestyle, white tips do not require an extensive range. Tending to occupy small patches of reef, around a square kilometre in size, they rarely venture far from their modest home range. With diminishing numbers, the white-tip reef shark's limited range and slow reproduction rate has seen them classified as a near-threatened species. Fortunately, in the Great Barrier Reef, the no-entry zones boast populations 80% higher than in fishing zones, and this method of conservation has demonstrated a solution for preserving the species of expert coral hunters. Recognized as one of the 7 wonders of the natural world, the Great Barrier Reef is a beautiful marine environment brimming with life. In this episode, we have seen octopuses, green sea turtles, dugongs, jellyfish, and white-tip reef shark. Such an extensive reef system is subject to a range of challenges. Increasing water temperatures are already taking their toll on the fragile corals. And these changing conditions have allowed the coral-eating crown of thorn starfish to flourish. Considered rainforests of the sea, the shallow coral reef system is one of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. And with dedicated management, the hope is that it can remain so for generations to come.
The northernmost part of the globe, the Arctic, is a windswept polar desert. Here, during the brief summers, temperatures never rise above 10 degrees Celsius, while the long winters can average -40. It is one of the least hospitable places on the planet. Life here has developed remarkable responses to this icy environment. In this episode, we meet polar bears, walruses, killer whales, moose, and wolves. Characterized by its ancient glacial formations, the Arctic landscape is ever-changing, dominated by the extensive ice sheets that grow and subside seasonally over the frigid waters of the Arctic Ocean. This is the domain of the Arctic's most famous resident, the polar bear. With males weighing upwards of 600 kilograms, the polar bear is the largest terrestrial carnivore on Earth. However, because the vast majority of their time is spent on the sea ice of their Arctic environment, and because they rely on this sea ice to hunt, polar bears are actually classed as marine mammals. In this frozen terrain, the search for food keeps polar bears in near constant motion. Their preferred prey, seals, inhabit the Arctic in their millions, but taking them is far from easy. In the months when there is sufficient ice cover, polar bears must search out the holes that seals use to breathe and lie in wait to launch their attack at the opportune moment. When the ice is too thin, or the seals too elusive, polar bears exist on their fat reserves or scavenge whatever food they can find. With the sea ice, a notoriously precarious surface, polar bears have adapted to become excellent swimmers. Granted buoyancy from their insulating layer of body fat, they use their large forepaws to paddle through the freezing water with incredible efficiency, and have been documented swimming non-stop for days at a time. Although generally solitary animals, when they do come together, polar bears are noted for their curious and playful social interactions. Young males especially can form friendship bonds and engage in play fights in order to prepare for mating competition later in life. Superbly insulated against the harsh Arctic winters, polar bears are active year-round. While they do not hibernate, pregnant females dig maternity dens in the snow in order to protect newborn cubs from the elements. Generally giving birth to 2 young, the cubs will stay close by their mother's side for the first 2.5 years of their lives. From her, the cubs will learn the necessary skills to hunt, forage, and survive in this most testing of environments. From an early age, the cubs must be able to travel. With the melting and freezing of the sea ice and the seasonal migrations of their prey, polar bears must remain mobile if they are to feed and live in the ever-shifting world of the Arctic. For these bears, it is a nomadic life, and the cubs keep pace with their mother as she guides them through the vast expanses of their frozen home. Enlarged paws with enhanced traction help her on the journey, distributing load over thin and slippery ice. And it is increasingly thin ice that polar bears find themselves on, with global warming having a more marked effect on the Arctic than just about anywhere else in the world. shrinking ice sheets equate to a shrinking habitat for polar bears. And with the ice breaking up earlier each year, their prime winter hunting season is also being reduced, driving bears to shore with insufficient food reserves to endure the lean summer months. Adapting superbly over tens of thousands of years to survive in the Arctic's narrow temperature band, the question of how the polar bear will respond to today's rapidly changing climate is yet to be answered. At first glance, the desolate, forbidding landscape of the Arctic appears utterly unreceptive to life. Yet this cold, barren world harbors a specialized and surprisingly abundant biome, not the least of which is to be found in the surrounding waters. Walruses are the largest seal species in the Arctic and the second largest in the world. Social creatures, it is rare to see a walrus alone, but recent observations are indicating that onshore gatherings are increasing in size, with rising temperatures leading to reduction in the Arctic's ice shelves. The rocky beaches of the coastline are now hosting herds in their tens of thousands. Of the world's 5 oceans, the Arctic is the shallowest, and this is to the walrus's advantage. Feeding primarily on the shellfish found near the dark ocean floor, the easygoing walrus is able to nourish itself more effectively by taking longer dives to the lesser depths. Here, their characteristic whiskers come into play. These highly sensitive organs can detect mollusks and clams just a few millimeters in size, which the walrus then sucks the meat from with its powerful lips. After a successful feeding foray, walruses will haul themselves up out of the water, turning their rear flippers forward in order to walk on all fours. Once on terra firma, they will rest for several days, sometimes enjoying siestas of over a week before they venture again into the frigid waters. Because the Arctic Ocean is salt water, the water temperature must drop to -1.8 degrees Celsius before freezing, and the walrus is perfectly comfortable in these sub-zero conditions. Up to 10 centimeters thick in places, the wrinkled skin of the walrus covers an even thicker layer of blubber beneath. Not only does their blubber insulate them, it can also be converted to energy in order to see walruses through the Arctic's lean times when feed is less plentiful. Curiously, the purpose of walruses' most recognizable appendage, their tusks, is somewhat unclear. These elongated canines can reach a meter in length and were once thought to be used in feeding, though more recent research has shown this is not the case. Instead, it appears the tusks are more of a multi-purpose instrument used in self-defense, for hauling their weighty bodies out of the water, and for maintaining breathing holes in the ice. Importantly, as males with the largest tusks have the most success in breeding, it seems the tusks are a status symbol in walrus society, one that's irresistible to females. Weighing over a ton, due to their enormous size, adult walruses are rarely predated upon in the wild. During the 18th and 19th centuries, the demand for walrus products, including tusks and oil, saw the species severely overhunted by European sealers. With several resident populations driven to extinction, in the 20th century a ban on commercial walrus harvesting was put in place. Thankfully, the numbers have been able to recover, and these gentle giants can remain relaxed about their future in the Arctic. In the waters of the Arctic, one creature presides over all others: the killer whale, properly known as the orca. The imposing and unforgiving world of the Arctic is also a place of raw and profound beauty, with the haunting light display of the aurora borealis flowing across the skies overhead. Some of the Arctic's most majestic assets can only be found below the surface. The largest members of the dolphin family, orcas, are actually more closely related to dolphins than they are to whales. And while they can be found in all the world's oceans, they remain a secretive species, and their migratory patterns are poorly understood by science. In the waters of the Arctic, orcas are considered frequent visitors rather than residents. Traversing the seas in complex, highly stable family groups, or pods, the social structures of orcas are comparable to highly intelligent terrestrial animals, including humans. As long-lived creatures, as many as 4 generations of a family can travel together, sharing the care of the young and working in synchrony to form ruthless and efficient hunting parties. In the Arctic, the abundant resident seal colonies make up the preferred diet of killer whales, with seals seeking refuge from these marauding predators on the shoreline. Orcas have developed a remarkable hunting strategy. Surging into the shallows where the seals are at rest, orcas will temporarily beach themselves in order to snatch their quarry from beyond the water's edge. With beaching usually fatal for dolphins and whale species, this is a highly risky technique, requiring precise timing if the orca is to make a kill, and more importantly, careful judgment if it can successfully work its huge bulk back into the sea. These beach attacks are not instinctive to orcas, but can mean the difference between feeding or going hungry in the Arctic. Taking years to master, senior killer whales have been witnessed teaching younger pod members the technique by releasing injured seals into the vicinity of the less experienced orcas, allowing them to practice making a beach kill on already weakened prey. Predictions for their future in the Arctic are speculative. The process of bioaccumulation results in toxins from prey species building up in the predators that feed on them. Occupying the top of the food chain, orcas have the unfortunate distinction of carrying the highest toxin levels of any animal in the world. Global warming has resulted in the reduction of much of the Arctic sea ice, actually expanding the orca's habitat in these waters. It has also opened the region's gas and oil reserves to drilling interests. With the health of the oceans directly reflected in the health of the magnificent orca, both must be carefully guarded for future generations. Also known as Arctic elk, the largest member of the deer family, the moose, is a true Arctic survivor.
Coated in a layer of permafrost, the Arctic tundra is a treeless plain where only the most hardy shrubs and grasses can grow. Few large animals are capable of existing here. But dividing their time between the most luscious subarctic forest surrounds, moose are frequent inhabitants of these exposed plains. During the summer months, when the ice melts, moose venture into the waterways to feast on the sodium-rich aquatic plant life. The only deer species capable of feeding underwater, the moose is equipped with muscles that close the nostrils and prevent water from entering its airways, allowing these unlikely animals to submerge themselves completely as they graze the underwater vegetation. As herbivores, moose consume around 30 kilograms of vegetation every day. To feed efficiently in the challenging Arctic environment, they have developed sensitive prehensile lips, which they use to feel out the fresh shoots from the harder twigs, stripping an entire branch of leaves in a single mouthful. In response to the limited feeding opportunities in the Arctic, moose are solitary creatures and, unlike most deer species, only rarely gather in groups. The mating season is the exception to the rule. During the rapid Arctic autumn, around September and October, moose come together to breed. Males compete for access to females, displaying their spectacular antlers to advertise their virility and locking horns to fight for supremacy. Calves are born after 8 months of gestation and grow quickly, able to outrun a human by the time they are just 5 days old. Although they will not reach sexual maturity for 5 years, they will leave their mothers when the next mating season comes around. The hollow hair of the moose pelt provides excellent protection against the elements of the cruel Arctic winters. Mature bulls will shed their horns for added energy conservation, often consuming the velvet fur that covers them for the nutrition it provides. Regrowing in spring, antlers take around 4 months to fully develop, making them one of the fastest growing animal organs. Throughout the winter, the moose's wide hooves are used as snowshoes, assisting these heavy animals across the soft snow. They can also be employed in digging, scraping snow cover away in order to feed on the mosses and lichens beneath. But despite their resourcefulness, not all will endure the 9-month-long Arctic winter. For all their size, moose are surprisingly nimble creatures and are more than capable of defending themselves against their predators in the Arctic. Despite a history of intense hunting that drove one subspecies to extinction, the moose remains a hardy and widespread species whose global population is increasing. Widely feared and persecuted by humans for its attacks on livestock, in the largely unpopulated Arctic, the mythic wolf remains a commanding presence. Once among the world's most widely distributed mammals, wolves occupied many habitats across the globe, from deserts to the Arctic tundra. In the face of deliberate eradication campaigns, today the Arctic stands as an enduring stronghold of the wolf. Here, a range of subspecies cohabitate, including the white-coated Arctic wolf. The largest members of the dog family, wolves are closely related to domestic canines. But genetics is one thing and behavior another, and the untamed wolf
has an arsenal of adaptations to life in the Arctic wild. Preferring to target the vulnerable members of prey, animals such as deer and moose, wolves hunting as a pack or individually are capable of taking down species far larger than themselves. In the harsh Arctic environment, even the best hunters can go a long time between kills. And to make the most unreliable feeding opportunities, wolves will gorge on their victims, consuming nearly 20% of their body weight in a single feeding. Social animals, wolves generally form packs around a nuclear family model with a mated pair at the head, accompanied by their offspring. With around 5 to 11 members, generally only the alpha pair of the pack are permitted to breed. With the breeding pair usually working the hardest during pack hunts, when a kill is made, they will eat first, feeding on the nutritionally rich organs so that they can continue producing healthy pups. Covering huge distances in search of food, wolves have been recorded walking nearly 200 kilometers in a single day. Equipped to contend with the challenging conditions of the Arctic, even when traveling over ice and snow, wolves are able to maintain the temperatures of their footpads just above the tissue freezing point. With longer legs than other canines and enlarged front paws, wolves can move efficiently even when faced with deep snow. Territorial animals, to ensure a most reliable supply of food, wolves in the Arctic tend to establish wide ranges, as large as several thousand square kilometers. Scent marking their turf every few hundred meters, the wolf's iconic howl is also used in maintaining territory. Fiercely defending their borders, territorial fights between rival packs are one of the major causes of wolf deaths in the wild. Extinct from much of their historical range due to targeted hunting around the world, the decline of wolf numbers has been turned around since the late 20th century through legal protections and reintroduction programs. Throughout this, the largely uninterrupted wilderness of the Arctic has maintained a stable population and, with careful conservation, is expected to continue to do so. In the Arctic, looks can be deceiving, and while outwardly hostile to life, this unique polar environment is alive with an intriguing array of specialized inhabitants. In this episode, we have met polar bears, walruses, orcas, moose, and wolves. For all its ferocity, the Arctic is a surprisingly delicate place, particularly sensitive to the effects of a changing climate. And with one of the most potent greenhouse gases, methane, stored in the Arctic's permafrost, the loss of ice cover here would accelerate the effects of global warming, a tipping point from which the Earth would be unlikely to recover. Distant from most of humanity, the Arctic is nonetheless connected to us all, and it is up to all of us to preserve it, not only for the sake of the Arctic, but for the sake of the world.